Good evening. This is Notepad. I'm your host Ibrahim Sani. The movement control order will be lifted in Kuala Lumpur, Selangor, Johor and Penang on March 5th, this Friday. And of course, this will be replaced by the conditional MCO. And as we all know, the impact of the MCO 2.0 has been felt by a lot of people. But businesses in particular have suffered the most. Very recently, the Business Survival Group have issued a statement saying that while they applaud the government's move to lift the MCO on March the 5th, the issue still remains on the so-called negative lists. And what they mean by this is that they ask, i.e. the Business Survival Group is asking Putrajaya to lift the interstate travel restrictions and the negative list that still includes indoor theme parks, family entertainment centers, live events by next review on the March 18th meeting or at an earlier time point. So here to understand this situation better is Datuk Wira Haji Dr. Ameer Ali Mydin, the advisor for the Business Survival Group. Datuk Ameer, let's talk a little bit more about why this statement is coming out and what is the Business Survival Group.
There is a lot of confusion, and there is always confusion when government changes MCO, CMCO, RMCO. Seriously, none of us know which is which now and what can be done and what cannot be done. I hope by tomorrow the SOPs will come out, so we'll have more clarity. Our only concern seriously is that do we really need to have the RMCOs, the CMCOs, and the MCOs? I agree on having EMCO, which is the enhanced MCO. When there's a case, there's a cluster, the government KK moves in and locks it down, make sure that within that nobody goes out. But all the other part of it is actually more confusing for the rakyat and also for the businesses. My humble suggestion is that open up everything, have very strict SOPs, everybody follows the SOPs, and whoever does not or is unable to follow the SOPs, they can't operate.
One of the things that that is driving the decision making by the government in terms of classification of an MCO is, of course, data and science. It is, of course, important for us to note that the MCOs are meant to control the outbreak. And to some degree, we've seen how the R number has decreased since the MCO 2.0 started. One of the bigger reasons why restrictions are also in place is because the government isn't confident enough that some areas like theme parks or cinema, all the other stuff is going to be opened, and that might not be able to control the epidemic or the pandemic actually. What would be some of the basis that you guys are using in urging the government to lift these kind of restrictions that are still in the so-called negative list?
I think all of us understand, of course, that there is data and science everywhere that needs to be used to make the final decision. All we're asking the government is balance it up. Use data and science, which is just like having a robot, seriously, churning out numbers, all right? With that, use logical sequencing and use your heart. Okay, we are not robots here. We're all human beings here. We have a heart. We have to survive. So let's balance it up, life and livelihood. Just because some analysis comes up with something, and analysis and reports are coming out every other day, right? One day we hear vaccine is good. The second day they say vaccine maybe got problem. One day we heard vaccine, one shot could be good enough. Today we hear from US, they said, no, you must have your 2 shots. So things change every day. So end of the day, we being human, we control and we need to use not only our logical brain, but our heart to make sure that the decisions we make are for the rakyat. We cannot be making decisions when rakyat are suffering. People have no food on the table. For example, you look at, it's very simple. Everyone says hiburan. Hiburan seems to be the last thing in everybody's mind. Hiburan is what? But hiburan itself is a livelihood for a lot of people. Let's forget the bigger stars. Let's forget about Datuk Siti Nurhaliza or Anwar Zain. But the people who work behind the scene for the show to go on. There are a lot of young people, hardworking people, the production people, the lighting people, who needs to be, and these are daily wages people. No hiburan, no work for all these people. And sometimes when you see decision made by the government, you say weddings allowed at 50% capacity, the MC obviously is going to welcome the crowd, but a comedian like Khalid Iskandar cannot be telling a joke. Or basking allowed indoor, but a three-piece band is not allowed because it's hiburan. Where is this logic? What is the difference? I think we are asking the government that you have an SOP, you say 50% capacity, hiburan then should be allowed. I mean, even if you go to a church, if a church is allowed, the pastor is there, he speaks. If you see an entertainment center, the crowd is there and the singer is singing a song. What is the real difference here? So why must we really differentiate? I think the government should not be deciding in terms of what is essential and what is non-essential. The government should say, these are your SOPs. Can you meet these strict SOPs? You can, you're allowed to operate. The minute you break this SOP, I'm going to close you down.
Now, what you are suggesting is, of course, quite radical, because we would understand as conventional wisdom in that the government has to decide what is essential, what is not essential. The government has to decide what should be open and what shouldn't, instead of giving guidelines and SOP. You are suggesting that there has to be lesser regulation by the government when it comes to the livelihood and the engagement that the people interact with all the establishments that they are engaged in. Is this a departure from the conventional wisdom that the government must do everything? Instead, the government provides the guidelines and enforcement and let the communities speak for themselves and decide and regulate amongst themselves. Is that what you're trying to argue here?
Yeah, basically, if this was in March last year, I think we all didn't know what is this COVID-19 pandemic. We really were not sure what needs to be done. And rightfully so, the government came very strongly and said, let's do the MCO there and then. But 1 year down the road, we have learned a lot of things, how they separate, how it doesn't separate, what is the best thing to do. I think we all understand it now. I think the government understands it now.
But do we really understand it, Dato? I mean, neither you or me are in the healthcare profession. Do we really know what's going on?
I think the healthcare profession itself is confused. Because every other day, some healthcare profession says something else. I mean, 2 days ago, they say stop sanitizing your building, you're wasting money, because the spread of COVID-19 to surfaces is very minimal. So I'm telling you, everybody is as confused as everybody else. Nobody has the right answer. And rightfully, of course, decisions have to be made, and we will listen to expert advice. I'm not saying don't listen to anybody, seriously. All I'm saying is that we need to balance life and livelihood. When we make a decision, example, like I said, if you allow a wedding, what's the difference between an MC welcoming, what's the difference between busking, and what's the difference between having a three-piece band? Basically, it's the same thing. So don't classify hiburan. I'm not in the hiburan business, okay? But I'm representing an association which represents a lot of people whose livelihood depends on this. I think this is my point.
There's also this statement that you guys have made. I'm talking about the Business Survival Group, on 1 million businesses saying no to domestic travel ban. So this means that you guys want some sort of a travel ban domestically, when science and data has shown that domestic travel does increase the spread of COVID, just like, for instance, how we saw the Sabah election and then the aftermath that you and I are still going through right now. What would be some of the ideas that you are trying to champion here when you say no to domestic travel ban?
I feel that the Sabah election, we have learned from it. Okay, we should not have allowed at that particular time. I agree wholeheartedly. the problem that we are in now seriously probably originated from that decision to allow the election to go on. But on hindsight, how do we move on? Okay, what we are saying basically is when you decide something and you say theme parks can open, for example, but if theme parks can open, hotels can operate, but interstate is not allowed, then what happens? People cannot travel, then they cannot stay in hotels. Hotels themselves, see, we have very strict SOPs, right? It is a matter of survival now. I think it's a balance that we need. I agree it's a very difficult balancing act. I don't have all the answers. The government does not have all the answers. But call us in. Government comes up with SOP. These SOPs are going to come out tomorrow again, new SOPs. And again, the industry has not been fully consulted. Then they will change again. Why are we not being called for consultation? Why are we, the association, the people on the ground, maybe put as a member of that so-called MKN group or the KKM group, so we can give feedback? We are also worried about our health. Hey, we don't want to get COVID-19 ourselves. I mean, I'm also 65 years old. I know it's going to be very dangerous for me also. But we'll have to balance. We have to have a clear roadmap to open up. We cannot just close because the world is opening up. We have to think tomorrow what we're going to do and next 3 months what we're going to do.
Datuk, let's shift gears here. Let's talk about the vaccine rollout. Any position that the Business Survival Group is taking when it comes to the vaccination process?
There are a couple of quick points on the vaccination process. Of course, one, I'm very happy that we have started the process. It's very easy to say, get everybody vaccinated. The logistic itself is a nightmare. I think the Malaysian civil service and the people are good organizational, that we are just a very impatient lot when we hear, 20 million vaccinated in UK and where are we now? Numbers are not coming out. I think the government needs to come up with numbers. Every day, 50,000, tomorrow 100,000, after tomorrow another 100,000, so that the confidence level goes up. We don't get that news out fast enough.
But that's the thing, Datuk Ameer. Sorry, I have to push back a little bit. The Minister in charge of vaccination rollout, Khairi Jamaluddin, does update every 12 hours the number of people vaccinated and the number of people signing up to be vaccinated on MySejahtera. Is that not enough?
I think there's not enough publicity about it. I mean, you can come up with a report somewhere, all right, but if not enough people know about it, right, because we hear that people who have registered is only about 6 to 7%, correct? So maybe maybe we need to put a deadline to say that those people who are registered by end of March will be the people in the list that will be vaccinated first. Then people, Malaysian, I hate to say this, bad habit, always want to do things last minute. I cannot believe only 7% are registered, but for something so important. And we here, the Survival Group, are very supportive of the vaccination plan. You need our help, just tell us. We will give our premises if we need location. We will give our people if we need people. Just ask. Without asking, there's nothing much we can do. But we are supportive, and the whole group is asking everyone, please register yourself. If you are in that group to be vaccinated, please go for your vaccination. Don't miss this chance. And of course, don't cut queues.
Well, that's our wish for everyone, right? Don't cut queues. There's two things that I want to follow up on that one. The first is on the 7%. The government has declared that they want to vaccinate 23.7 million Malaysians. These are 70% of people here in this country who are above 18 years old. 1.623 million have been registered on MySejahtera thus far, with 2.0 million people to be registered hopefully by the end of the week. That is the statement coming in from the government thus far. One of the bigger reasons why the government wants people to register early is, of course, to allow them to manage the vaccination distribution logistics and to supply the vaccines where they are needed most. As we all know, they are delicate items, need to be stored below 70 degrees Celsius, for instance. There's a lot of cold chain involved between point A to point B to point C, and because of that, the government needs all the data they can get right now. Dato' Ameer, you are what I would call a pioneer in terms of logistical management, having been in the business for decades right now. You would know the logistical nightmare that is facing the government. How are things now when you know for a fact that your group is not being consulted or not being invited for a dialogue when it comes to vaccination rollouts and logistical management? Does this impact, you think, the well-being of the country when the rest of the, I guess, apparatus of the private sector is not utilized by the government?
You know, it's always the case that sometimes someone sitting up there thinks they become know-all. You know, they are in the medical profession, they think they know all. But seriously, when it comes to logistics, when it comes to supply chain, we in the businesses are the best people to know how to run things. You know, it's not who wants to make the money. Obviously, what we want to do is whatever is required for the country. End of the day, I have a out-of-box thinking on who should be vaccinated. It might be a bit controversial here, but seriously, the government has been asking us to make sure the foreign labor are tested. I mean, all of us are required, all foreign workers to be tested, and I think the extension is until March. And the reason being is that the government, and I think all of us probably feel that because the working environment they are in, the environment they stay in, hygiene standards could be questionable. So they are the primary source of the infection going out. Will it be a wrong suggestion to say, why not vaccinate the foreign workers first? Would not that be the right thing to do? Why vaccinate me? I know I'm 65 years old. I'm probably in phase 2. I don't mind sacrificing because I'm worried about getting some infection from somebody, and if they are the primary source, the work site, you know, the construction site, don't know where they are in the jungle, those that run away or whatever, let's work on that because that was the very big issue even in Singapore, right? So why don't we work on that? Tell all foreign workers, you're going to be, after, of course, the doctors and the nurses, they have to be the frontliners, of course. You're going to be the second one. Let's vaccinate all foreign workers, the 4 million, 3 million legal, 3 million illegal. And how are we going to get the illegal to be vaccinated? Are they going to come out? I mean, if there is no amnesty program worked out now, I don't think those people are going to come out. Even the legal ones are scared to come out.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen how last year there were unlawful arrests of legal immigrants when it comes to the MCO being rounding them up in some areas in KL. And it's a dire situation right now to talk about the foreign workers in the country. But perhaps my follow-up question to this is, do you feel that the government has engaged enough stakeholders when it comes to trying to select who should be vaccinated ahead over others? Or do you feel that the JKJAV, as it is called, the Jawatan Kuasa to synergize the vaccine rollout program, do you feel that they are doing a good job essentially right now?
I think basically when I went through the priority list, you know, phase 1, phase 2, I think it's very fair. It's very fair the way they worked it out. The frontliners, you know, the one above 60, then you go down the younger one. I think they have also used similar models in many other countries. I'm not questioning. I think it's perfect. Now it's a matter of getting confidence to the people and getting them to start getting vaccinated. For the moment, of course, we see photographs coming out that the police or these people are being vaccinated. That is good, you know. But come ask us how we can help you. You know, we have massive logistic experience. But seriously, yes, we have not been consulted, and well, we should be consulted. Actually, everybody should be consulted. We have time. We should start. We can even start consultation now.
We've seen a lot of the CPI index falling, particularly when it comes to goods and services. We've seen prices in a way also falling, and that's why the headline inflation rate is actually low compared to what was initially expected by some economists. Word on the ground is that people are not having cash, and because of that, prices are difficult to go up. What's your thought on the situation right now when it comes to retail spending?
Actually, when we look at data, of course, we see that overall inflation is very low. We see prices could be dropping on a CPI index, all right? But let me tell you, that is because of many reasons, but the prices of commodities are going up. Prices of cooking oil has gone up, prices of chicken has gone up, because generally commodity price all over the world, cotton prices are up, yarn prices are up. So you will see that prices will go up. Actually, they will have gone up faster, and rightly what you say, because people don't have the money, and because of that, people try to hold back the increase in prices. The most important thing here is how we communicate to the rakyat in terms of this whole so-called pandemic and the vaccination plan. When we open up schools, suddenly we see people willing to go out because the confidence level goes up. Government says schools are open, it should be okay to go out. Yes, people might start letting their guard down, but give them confidence to shop, so businesses come up. Then our DG announces only 70% are vaccinated, then we will open up. That became a shock. The next day, business dropped. People got worried. Oh my goodness, what's happening here? So we got double messages coming out. So I think it's very, very important what is being communicated out there, because business is all about consumer confidence, right? Whatever the government does or whoever in authority speaks, of course, you must caution everybody on SOPs. Every day, we must be reminded, but we must also be positive so that business can go on, people can go out. Even now, with the CMCO, hopefully on 5th of March, we still are not sure about work from home. I mean, if you say restaurant can open until midnight, you can have dine-in, follow your 1 meter distancing, but what is going to happen to all the cafes in town centers when most of the people are working from home? So allowing one sector to open up, but then not giving the people to go out to enjoy that sector that is open up is not going to help business. Just like allowing theme parks, but not allowing interstate travel. Allowing hotels to open up, but not allowing interstate travel. So business needs, the whole thing has to jive together. We are not saying that we must not be cautious here. I'm very supportive. You all are very supportive of the government. Work with us, and we will definitely tell our association, we keep telling our association, be careful, follow SOP. If something goes wrong again, I mean, numbers are going down, but God forbid, if numbers go up again, I'm very sure the government is going to come hard on us, and the people to suffer will be us, the businesses, and the Malaysian Raya.
Final question, Datuk. We know that the SME sector is employing 95% of Malaysians. This is unbelievably big. When we have 15 million workers in Malaysia, and 95 of them are being hired by SME. And many of them have lost their jobs. Some of them are underemployed, not so much unemployed. So they tend to be missing from the official data by DOSM or Department of Statistics. But they are underemployed. And situation does look bleak. So bleak to a point where they are dipping their hands into their own savings with EPF. Very recently we saw EPF announcing 60% Malaysians have zero balance in account 2, 30% of Malaysians have zero balance in account 1. What do you think needs to be done to help us all in this sense, Dato'? A lot of us don't have money.
We have been telling, I think all associations have been coming up with suggestions to the government. some the government has listened, the balance goes on deaf ears. For example, a very simple example. In this current difficult scenario, do we really have to have employers pay EPF? That 11% that we have to pay EPF, right? Which is a big chunk of money. If the businesses could, for example, the next 6 months or 1 year did not pay EPF, yes, the employees will not get the money, but at the moment, we're not talking about who's having the money, we're talking about survival. So that 11% is a big help for cash flow. The second, of course, our finance minister says our bank made losses. I don't know how he get those numbers, but moratorium, the bank made 6.4 billion losses or something like that. But last week, I totaled up, the bank reported profit more than $20 billion. Hey, come on. I would say, kacang lupakan kulit lah. We are the one who's supporting the banks all the time to make the money, right? You make 20 billion losses, profit, and we are making billions of losses. How about you make 10 billion profit and pass the 10 billion to the rakyat by giving more loan moratorium, reducing rate. Bankers are increasing their margin to borrowers who are having cash flow problem. I mean, where is your heart? That's why I'm asking, where is your heart? TNB reported 4.3 billion profit. Yes, 1 billion was some capital, reclassification, but still 3 billion. The industry had been asking for subsidy for the electric bill because utility is a very big chunk of our expenses. We are not going to get that money. That is savings for us to help our cash flow for the business to survive, and businesses to survive. The SME survive, the bigger players survive, the smaller SME survive. The smaller SME survive, the rakyat survive. I don't see why the government, knowing these facts, so blatantly allow banks to report 20 billion profit, allow TNB to report 4.3 billion profit, and I don't know what else, right? But business people are dying. Use that money. Use your emergency powers. You got emergency now. Use those powers to help businesses. I don't think the government really has felt how difficult the people are down there, because the numbers of foreclosures, bankruptcies always come 6 months, 9 months later. So this is what I'm asking the government. Loan moratorium. That the first loan moratorium helped a lot. Government says, oh, those who want moratorium, ask the bank. I'm an ex-banker. We have a very, I don't know whether bankers have heart, but many of us don't when we are bankers.
They don't have heart, so sad to say. Right, thank you very much. That was Datuk Wira Dr. Ameer Ali Mydin, the advisor for the Business Survival Group. Also, the MD for the Mydin Association. We want to make sure that you guys get all you got from the interview. Just head on to Astro AWANI. Look for Notepad. There are plenty of interviews like this that can be found there. Remember, you can also watch these kind of interviews on your mobile devices. Just download the Astro AWANI app wherever you get the application. And also one more important reminder. Remember, sign up for your vaccination queue number. Get on My Sejahtera and be in the running for getting the vaccine. Remember, no one is safe until everyone is safe, so vaccinations must be done. Until then, thanks very much for watching, and goodbye.